But why respond by saying just do people who look like Middle Easterners or Pakistanis?
Was that because all the perpetrators, with a few exceptions, are young men from the Middle East or from Pakistan?
But that is the difficulty. There are exceptions. I mean, even in Guantanamo,
That's
there
true.
were white people and there were black people.
It's true that this is no longer a problem exclusively for the Muslim community. And the writer Mark Steen instances a man called David Mart, who was a white supremacist, and he's now called Abdul Aziz ibn Mart. And quite clearly it wasn't the white bit he liked, it was the supremacist bit. Islamism will be a sink for every, wannabe Wahhabi, every Walter Mitty of murder, every functioning schizophrenic, every rampant anti-Semite.
But I just want to sort of try to distinguish between Islamism and Islam. I mean, for example, you say the extreme incuriosity of Islamic culture. I mean, how can you say such a sweeping thing about an entire faith that is expressed in different strands in different parts of the world?
Because they've translated a handful of books in the last millennium. Islam, as I've spelt out very doggedly, is responsible for countless gifts to humanity. It was far more advanced than we were around the 10th century. It has since fallen behind. And there is a kind of revanchist rage that has been building for the last century, which is hoping to reassert its superiority, its imagined superiority, through violence.
But if you take a country like Iran, some of the most creative filmmakers, some of the most creative writers in the world come out of Iran. Now, whether they are on the side of the mullahs or against the mullahs or whatever, nevertheless, they're Islamic people.
Well, of course You're as bad as Terry Eagleton. You're trying to make me feel as if I'm condemning an entire religion. I'm not. This is a radical wing, an ideology within a religion. There is no trouble separating Islam and Islamism. It's self-evident what the difference is.
But the urge, the atavism you talked about, was directed scattergun against the entire community,
yes.
not very specifically.
No, but I said I had the urge to say it, and there's a very great difference between confessing to an urge and propounding a view. Eagleton, with sort of disgraceful sloppiness, has said that I propounded this, that I recommended it in an essay. I didn't. I've written extensively on the subject, and I stand by every word I've written. That was in an interview 14 months ago.
But isn't the word urge an interesting one? Isn't urge what some Islamic people feel precisely because of the way we treat them? Look at the war on Iraq. Do you not think that would stir an urge when you see women and children ravaged and men by what we Westerners are doing?
I've said in print that by far the greatest danger of terrorism is not what it inflicts, but what it provokes. And the Iraq War has been a disaster. And I was against it at the time, and I'm against it now. Blowing up a lot of women in a nightclub doesn't seem to me to be a proportionate act in response to that. We're very slow. The other night at the ICA, I asked the audience to put up its hand if it felt morally superior to the Taliban. To the Taliban, who have two-day massacres, slash the throats of children, not only subtract women from society, but black up the windows of the houses they're confined to. And only a third of the audience raised its hand. What are we arguing about? We're arguing about something I said.
But do you feel morally superior to Islam?
I feel morally superior to Islamism, yes, by some distance.
Islam itself?
No, I feel an intellectual distance from all religions. And I think there are great problems in Islam in that the Quran recommends the beating of women and the murder of apostates.
You see, one of the things which I think happens is clearly people in our society love your writing and wallow in it. At the same time, I'm wondering whether you ever weigh what you're saying, or whether you in fact get carried away with your own literary capacity to express things in a lyrical way, which in the end can be read and understood by the people who receive them who are not necessarily of your culture, who find them deeply offensive.
I don't think that would be a legitimate response. I stand by everything I've written. What you say in an interview with a proviso is quite different. I feel that my response to this crisis that began in 2001 has been strictly rational throughout, and I will stand by that.
What do you say to the charge that you are your father's son?
Well, lazily and cornerly defamed by Eagleton when he's not around to defend himself. No, you have an argument with your father all your life, and he's been dead for 12 years, and I'm still having that argument. I was on most things to the left of him, but Eagleton is accusing him of impulses. He was never homophobic. He had a difficult time in his relations with women, but was not misogynistic, was not in any sense anti-Semitic, except in the odd impulse. And why do we not admit to these odd impulses? Do we cleanse ourselves? Do we pretend that we're homogeneous and pure and clean? Do we want to live with that kind of illusion? The anti-Semites, the psychotic misogynists and homophobics are the Islamists.
You've ended up in a department where a man who regards you as a racist Islamophobic is going to be in a next-door study.
Yes, but Terry Eagleton, it's becoming hilariously clear, just trawls the internet looking for things to get self-righteous about. He refers to that essay, he has never had it in front of him.
Martin Amis, thank you very much indeed for joining us.